The year 2387 was like any other peaceful year in the galaxy. Commander Velterra floated in her crystal ship, watching the stars through the big windows. Her blue skin glowed softly as she checked the daily reports from across the galaxy. It was calm, just like it had been for the last 3,000 years. The Galactic Confederation was huge. 847 different alien species lived together in peace. Some looked like giant insects, others were made of living crystal, and some were just floating balls of light. Stories about the old days, when species used to have something called wars. But that was ancient history now. These days, when two species disagreed about something, they would sit down and talk. Maybe one would pay the other some money, or they would make a trade deal. Nobody got hurt, nobody died. It was civilized. That was what aliens called fear now. Real fear, the kind that made your heart pound and your hands shake, did not exist anymore. Most species had evolved past those old feelings. Velterra, S. Every few years, a new species would figure out how to send messages between stars. When that happened, the Confederation would send a welcome party. It always worked the same way. The new species would be scared at first. They would ask lots of questions about territory and resources. A few meetings, they would understand that the galaxy was safe. There was enough for everyone. Fighting was not necessary. Then they would join the Confederation and live in peace forever. Today felt different, though. Velterra's instrument started beeping loudly. A new signal was coming from the edge of the galaxy from a place they called the Sol System. The mathematical patterns were clear and strong. Other species had just learned how to talk between the stars. But something was strange about these signals. Most new species sent simple patterns of numbers and basic pictures. These signals were much more complex. They talked about things that made no sense to Velterra. Words like military strength and defensive positions kept appearing in the translations. Velterra called for a meeting with the other commanders. Commander Tysil, who looked like a tall tree with many arms, spoke first. "The new signals are unusual," Tysil said in their musical voice. "They seem to be asking about our weapons." "Weapons?" laughed Commander Zarthik, whose rocky body rumbled when he was amused. "We do not have weapons. We have tools for mining and building." Why would they ask about weapons? The other commanders agreed. The very idea was silly. Weapons were things from the old stories, from the time before civilization. Modern species did not need weapons because they did not fight. But Velterra felt worried. "Maybe we should approach slowly," she suggested. "Send a small ship first, just to make sure everything is normal." The other commanders looked at her strangely. In 3,000 years of first contact, nothing had ever gone wrong. Every new species eventually became peaceful members of the Confederation. Why should this time be different? "We will send the usual fleet," decided the Council. 12 ships, full of gifts and knowledge. We will welcome these humans, as we call them, into our peaceful galaxy. Far away in the Sol System, something very different was happening. Admiral Juan stood on the bridge of his warship, watching explosions light up the darkness of space. Human ships were fighting other human ships in what they called the Third Colonial War. The war had been going on for 18 months. Thousands of people had already died. But neither side was ready to give up. The Earth colonies wanted independence, and Earth's government wanted to keep control. His face had scars from battles, and his hair was turning gray from stress. But he would keep fighting because he believed his cause was right. Sir called Lieutenant Minji from her station. "We are getting strange signals from outside the system. Mathematical patterns. It looks like first contact protocols." Juan turned to look at the data on his screen. Someone was trying to talk to humanity. After hundreds of years of wondering if they were alone in the universe, aliens were finally making contact. But Juan's first thought was not about friendship or peace. In his experience, first contact usually meant first conflict. Groups met for the first time. They usually ended up fighting. "Send a message back," Juan ordered. As the message traveled through space toward the alien fleet, neither side knew they were about to meet something completely different from anything they had ever encountered before. They were beautiful ships, designed for exploration and peaceful meetings. Their hulls were smooth and curved, with no sharp edges or threatening shapes. Inside each ship, the alien crews were excited to meet another civilized species. Ambassador Rickstall stood at the main window of the lead ship, watching the human star system with wonder. The instruments were showing something impossible. There were explosions everywhere. Ships were fighting each other. Rickstall asked his science officer, a crystalline being named Katara. "They appear to be engaged in organized violence," Katara replied, her voice shaking. "Ship against ship. They are all the same species. They are fighting themselves." Had never seen anything like it. In the Confederation, when two groups disagreed, they would meet in a neutral place and talk until they found a solution. Sometimes it took days or weeks, but violence was never the answer. Violence was something from the old stories, from the dark times before civilization. "Maybe they are practicing," suggested Communications Officer Trillin. "Maybe this is some kind of training exercise?" But the explosions looked too real. The wreckage looked too damaged. Words like enemy and destroy and casualty. Report. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral One was studying the alien ships through his telescope. No armor plating, no defensive shields. They looked more like floating art pieces than spacecraft. "Maybe they are peaceful," Jiho suggested. "Our ships do not look like they are built for fighting." Juan laughed bitterly. The first official meeting took place on a neutral space station that the aliens quickly built between the two fleets. It was a beautiful crystal structure that seemed to grow from nothing in just a few hours. The aliens were clearly much more advanced than humans in some ways, but when the human delegation arrived, they came in armed shuttles with heavy escorts. Captain Jinsu stepped onto the station wearing full combat armor and carrying enough weapons to fight a small war. Behind him came a squad of Marines in powered suits, their faces hidden behind tactical visors. The alien delegation was dressed in flowing robes and carried nothing but small devices for translation and recording. They looked like they were going to a peaceful ceremony, not a military briefing. "Before we begin, we need to discuss your military capabilities, your territorial claims, and your intentions regarding human colonies." Ambassador Rickstall's translator struggled with the words. Military capabilities? Territorial claims? These were concepts that had not existed in the galaxy for thousands of years. "We come in peace," Rickstall said, spreading his forearms in a gesture of openness. "We wish to share knowledge and friendship. We have no territorial claims. We have no military." Captain Jinsu's hand moved closer to his weapon. "Everyone has military capabilities. Either you are lying, or you are hiding something, or you are about to become someone else's territory." The confusion got worse when Dr. Hyman, humanities military historian, began her presentation. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but the words she spoke made the aliens want to run away. "In our recorded history," she said calmly, "we have fought over 14,000 documented wars. We have destroyed entire cities. We have killed millions of our own species. We have built weapons that can destroy whole planets." The alien delegate sat in stunned silence. 14,000 wars? The number was so large, they could not understand. Most alien species had fought maybe one or two conflicts in their entire history, and those were usually over quickly with minimal casualties. "You fight your own species?" asked Ambassador Rickstall, his voice barely a whisper. "All the time," Dr. Hyman replied. "We fight over resources, territory, ideas, religion, politics, and sometimes just because we do not like each other. Fighting is what humans do." "But why?" asked Katara. "Why do you not simply negotiate? Why do you not find peaceful solutions?" Captain Jinsu answered that question. "Because sometimes the other side wants something you cannot give them. Sometimes they want to control you, or kill you, or take everything you have. When that happens, talking is not enough. You have to fight." The aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. They had encountered something that should not exist in a civilized galaxy. A species that had reached the stars while still being completely, totally, and efficiently violent. And the worst part was, these humans did not seem ashamed of it. They talked about war the way normal species talked about art or science, like it was just another tool they used to solve problems. As the meeting ended, Ambassador Rixtel realized that everything the Confederation thought they knew about intelligent life was wrong. Peace was not inevitable. Civilization did not automatically lead to harmony. Somewhere in the galaxy, there was at least one species that had learned to be very, very good at killing. The cultural exchange meetings continued for 3 days, but every conversation made the aliens more frightened. Dr. Hyman showed them pictures from human history. Cities turned to ash, battlefields covered with bodies, weapons that could destroy entire continents in minutes. This is from what we call World War II, she explained, showing images of massive battles. 50 million humans died in 6 years. We fought on land, in the air, on the oceans, and under the water. Every continent was involved. Ambassador Rixtel's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. 50 million? That is more than the total population of most planets.
Ow.
That was just one war. Dr. Hyman continued. We had another world war before that one, and many smaller wars after. We are currently fighting what we call the Third Colonial War. Commander Veltara, who had been listening through the communication link, felt her ancient fear responses awakening. Her species had evolved past such feelings millions of years ago. Something deep in her genes was screaming warnings. The breaking point came on the 4th day. A group of radical humans, led by a colonel named Deho, became convinced that the aliens were planning to invade Earth. They believed the peaceful first contact was a trick, a way to learn human weaknesses before attacking. You cannot trust them, Colonel Deho told his followers in a secret meeting. They have technology far beyond ours. Ships that can build space stations in hours. They could destroy us easily if they wanted to. But they seem peaceful, argued Major Yeji, though she kept her hand on her weapon out of habit. That is what makes them dangerous, Deho replied. No species becomes advanced by being peaceful. They must be hiding their true nature. We need to strike first before they can attack us. The aliens had no idea what was coming. Their ships floated peacefully near the space station, with most of the crew resting or studying human culture. They had no weapons, no shields, no defensive systems beyond basic hull plating. When 3 human frigates suddenly appeared and opened fire, the aliens were completely unprepared. The first alien ship exploded in a ball of fire before its crew even knew they were under attack. Emergency alarms screamed across the Confederation fleet as the other ships tried to understand what was happening. We are under attack, Commander. Veltara broadcast in panic. The humans are firing on us. Colonel Deho led the attack from his command ship, the UES Retribution. His tactics were perfect, honed by centuries of human warfare. He divided his small force to attack from multiple angles, making the alien fleet think they were facing a larger enemy. Target their engines first, he ordered his pilots. Disable them so they cannot escape, and destroy their communication systems so they cannot call for help. The alien ships were not built for combat. They were exploration vessels with large windows, comfortable quarters, and scientific equipment. When human missiles started exploding against their hulls, the alien crews panicked in ways they had never experienced before. But what terrified the aliens most was not the attack itself. It was how the humans behaved during the fight. Major Yeji, flying her fighter through explosions and laser fire, was completely calm. Her heart rate actually slowed down during combat. Her hands became steadier. Her thinking became clearer. This is what we call combat focus, she reported to Colonel Deho, her voice as steady as if she were reading a weather report. Enemy ship disabled. Moving to next target. Aliens watching the battle could not understand it. When their own species faced danger, they became frightened and confused. Their performance got worse under stress. But these humans became more efficient killers when their lives were threatened. In 18 minutes, 3 human ships had destroyed or disabled all 12 alien vessels. The Confederation fleet, which had traveled thousands of light years in peace, was now floating wreckage. Most of the alien crews were dead or badly injured. The few survivors sent desperate messages back to Confederation space. They are not like us, Commander Veltara broadcast with her dying breath. They do not fear death. They use fear to make themselves stronger. They are predators wearing the masks of civilization. Colonel Daho's attack had been based on fear and misunderstanding. But it revealed something that changed the galaxy forever. Humans were not just capable of violence, they were perfectly designed for it. Their bodies, their minds, their emotions. Everything about them had been shaped by millions of years of warfare. When Captain Jinsu arrived with reinforcements and arrested Colonel Daho, the damage was already done. The surviving aliens had seen something that should not exist in their peaceful universe. A species that became more dangerous when threatened, not less. You have to understand, Captain Jinsu told the few remaining alien survivors. Colonel? Daho was wrong to attack you. Most humans want peace. But we are also ready for war, always, because that is how we survived long enough to reach the stars. The aliens looked at him with new understanding. Humans were not evil. They were not monsters. They were simply the product of a universe that had taught them a different lesson than the rest of the galaxy had learned. The lesson that sometimes, no matter how much you want peace, you have to be ready to fight for it. News of the Soul Skirmish spread across the galaxy faster than light itself, carried by the emergency broadcasts of the surviving aliens. The first time in 3,000 years, entire civilizations felt something they had forgotten how to feel. True, bone-deep, survival fear. The news from Sol System spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every Confederation world knew that humans had destroyed an entire First Contact fleet in less than 20 minutes. The reports were so unbelievable that many aliens thought it was some kind of mistake or translation error. But the surviving witnesses kept telling the same impossible story. A species that became more effective when threatened. Ships designed for killing. Beings who showed no fear when facing death. On the crystal world of Velthor, Commander Tysil watched the emergency broadcasts with growing horror. Her tree-like body shook as she tried to understand what she was seeing. The humans had not just attacked the fleet. They had studied it first, identified weaknesses, and then destroyed it with surgical precision. "This changes everything," she whispered to her aide. "Everything we know about intelligent life is wrong." Across the galaxy, civilizations that had not thought about defense for thousands of years suddenly realized they were completely helpless. Their ships had no weapons. Their planets had no shields. Their people had no idea how to fight. Panic spread faster than the news itself. Trading world of Nexus Prime, alien merchants began hoarding supplies for the first time in recorded history. Stock markets crashed as species tried to figure out how to buy something that did not exist yet. Military protection. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from all 847 species gathered in the Great Crystal Dome on Confederation Central. It was the first time in 3,000 years that every species had attended the same meeting. The debate was chaotic. Some aliens wanted to declare war on humanity. Others wanted to hide and hope the humans would leave them alone. A few suggested trying to negotiate. But most were too frightened to think clearly. Then Admiral Sung Ho arrived. He came alone, in a small shuttle that could have been destroyed by any of the thousands of alien ships surrounding the station. His presence was so intimidating that none of them dared to attack. He walked into the council chamber wearing a simple military uniform, with no weapons visible. Yet every alien in the room felt like prey in the presence of a predator. "I am here to explain," he said simply, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "You are afraid of us, and you should be. But you do not understand what you should really fear." The council chamber fell silent. Admiral Sung Ho was not a large man compared to some of the aliens present, but his calm confidence made him seem 10 feet tall. "You think we are monsters because we can kill," he continued. "But you are wrong. We are not monsters because we choose not to kill most of the time." He activated a holographic display showing human history. Not the wars this time, but the peace. Cities where millions of different people lived together. Hospitals where humans saved the lives of complete strangers. Schools where humans taught their children to be better than they were. "Every human you have met could kill you with their bare hands," Admiral Sung Ho explained calmly. "But they choose not to. Every human ship could destroy your cities, but they choose not to. We have weapons that could turn your planets to glass, but we choose not to use them." The aliens listened in stunned silence as he continued. The humans who attacked your fleet were afraid. They thought you were going to hurt their families, so they acted to protect what they loved. This is what we do. We fight when something we care about is threatened. Dr. Bora, a human psychologist who had accompanied the admiral, stepped forward. She was a small, elderly woman who looked completely harmless, but her words carried the weight of scientific truth. Our species evolved differently than yours, she explained. We come from a world where everything tried to kill us. The weather, the animals, other humans, diseases, natural disasters. We learned to survive by being ready to fight at any moment. Showed brain scans comparing human and alien neural patterns. When you face danger, your brains shut down non-essential functions. You become confused and frightened. When we face danger, our brains become more focused. We think faster, move quicker, and make better decisions. But here's what you need to understand, Admiral Sung-ho said, his voice becoming gentler. We also evolved to protect each other. Humans have died by the millions to save people they never met. We have fought wars to free slaves in other countries. We have shared our food with starving strangers. The ancient Confederation AI had been analyzing human psychology since the first contact. Now it spoke for the first time in the emergency session, its voice echoing through the chamber like the voice of a god. Analysis complete, the AI announced. Humans are not uniquely violent. They are uniquely balanced. Each individual contains both maximum capacity for destruction and maximum capacity for protection. They can love deeply enough to sacrifice themselves for strangers and fight viciously enough to destroy anyone who threatens what they love. The AI paused, processing the implications of its own findings. Recommendation: humans represent both the greatest threat and the greatest protection this galaxy has ever encountered. They should be feared and trusted in equal measure. Admiral Sung-ho nodded slowly. We do not want to rule you, he said to the assembled aliens. We do not want to hurt you. But if something else tries to hurt you, we will stop it. Humans do. We protect what we care about. The council chamber remained silent for a long time as 847 different people species tried to understand what they had just learned. Fear and hope warred in alien hearts that had forgotten both emotions existed. Finally, Ambassador Rixdell spoke, his voice shaking. What do you want from us? Admiral Sung-ho smiled, and for the first time, it was not a frightening expression. We want to be your friends. We want you to sleep safely at night, knowing that someone is watching for danger. 1 year had passed since Admiral Sun-ho addressed the Galactic Council. The galaxy was completely different now, changed in ways that no one could have imagined. What had started with fear and misunderstanding had become something new and hopeful. Admiral Juan stood on the observation deck of Sanctuary Station, the galaxy's first military command center in 3,000 years. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from dozens of different species working together. Human frigates flew alongside crystalline Velthari scouts. Insectoid Krillian vessels shared patrol routes with floating energy beings from the Nexus Collective. The station itself was a miracle of cooperation. Human engineering had been combined with alien technology to create something neither could have built alone. Humans provided the tactical knowledge and defensive systems, while the aliens contributed advanced materials and energy sources that made human weapons 10 times more powerful. Status report, Captain, Jawan said to his aide. Captain Soman, who was studying a holographic display of the galaxy. All quiet on 17 sectors, Soman replied. The Valdorian trade dispute was resolved peacefully after both sides remembered. We were watching. The Cathari pirates tried to raid the Gemini colonies, but our patrol ships convinced them to find a new profession instead. Jawan smiled. It was amazing how many problems solved themselves when both sides knew that humans were standing nearby, ready to keep the peace. Not through threats or violence, but simply by existing. The mere knowledge that someone was willing and able to fight had prevented dozens of conflicts. The Confederation had created a new category of citizenship just for humanity: the Guardians. It was the first time in galactic history that an entire species had been given a specific job. Humans became the galaxy's protectors. taking responsibility for keeping peace between member worlds and defending against external threats. In exchange, humanity gained access to alien technology that advanced their civilization by centuries overnight. Human ships now used crystalline energy cores that could power entire cities. Human medicine incorporated alien knowledge that eliminated most diseases. Human communications used quantum entanglement systems that allowed instant contact across the galaxy. But the most important change was not technological. It was psychological. For the first time in 3,000 years, a civilized galaxy felt safe. Captain Minji approached from the communications station, her face showing concern. "Admiral, we are receiving a priority distress signal from the Outer Rim. A Ladorian survey fleet has gone silent near the edge of known space." Jaewon's expression became serious. The Eldorians were peaceful explorers who had been mapping new star systems beyond Confederation territory. If they had encountered trouble, it could mean anything from mechanical failure to first contact with an unknown species. "Dispatch the 7th Fleet," he ordered. "Captain Jinsu can handle whatever they find out there." But as the human ships prepared to depart, something unprecedented happened. Alien vessels began volunteering to join the mission. Beltheri scouts wanted to help search for survivors. Krillian medical ships offered to assist with any wounded. Even the usually cautious energy beings insisted on sending representatives. "We want to help," explained Commander Keitara, whose crystalline body sparkled with determination. "The Eldorians are our friends. If they are in danger, we cannot just wait here safely." Admiral Jaewon was moved by the gesture, but he was also worried these aliens were not trained for combat. The Eldorian fleet had encountered something dangerous. Sending peaceful species into the same area could make things worse. "I appreciate the offer," he said carefully, "but we do not know what we might find out there. It could be dangerous." "That is exactly why we want to come," replied Commander Teisel, her tree-like branches rustling with emotion. "For 3,000 years, we ran away from every problem. We hid behind our peace and let others handle difficulties. But you taught us something important. Sometimes you have to be brave to protect what you love." The combined fleet that departed for the Outer Rim was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human warships flew in formation with alien vessels that had been hastily equipped with basic defensive systems. It was not the most powerful fleet in galactic history, but it was the most united as they traveled toward the edge of known space. Long-range sensors began detecting something that made Admiral Jaewon's blood run cold. Massive energy signatures were moving through the void between galaxies. Ships, but not like anything in the Confederation database. These vessels were huge, dark, clearly designed for one purpose: conquest. Captain Soman studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. "Admiral, these energy signatures. They are not from our galaxy. Whatever built these ships comes from somewhere else entirely." The truth became clear as they reached the Eldorian survey area. Peaceful exploration fleet had encountered an invasion force from beyond the galactic rim. Ancient beings from another galaxy had been watching the Milky Way for millions of years, waiting for the right time to attack. They had expected to find the same peaceful, defenseless civilizations that had existed for the past 3,000 years. Instead, they had found humans. The battle was brief but decisive. The invaders had superior technology and overwhelming numbers, but they had never fought an enemy that became more dangerous when threatened. Human tactics, combined with alien technology and the desperate courage of species fighting to protect their homes, proved to be an unstoppable combination. "Admiral." Jaewon opened a communication channel to Earth as the enemy fleet retreated into the void. "Command, this is Sanctuary Station. The threat has been neutralized, but we have a new situation. The galaxy just learned that we are not alone in the universe. And everything out there in the dark now knows that this galaxy is protected." Looked out at the combined fleet, humans and aliens working together as one people, and smiled. "I think they are going to need a bigger invasion force.